All right, this is a quick little interjection, and basically, this video here, part one, is ever so slightly different. I just want to point out that, well, actually, I'm editing it in place of the first couple seconds, but basically, we're no longer going through the repository branches and all that stuff, as I explained in the previous video. So, the previous video gets you set up with the project, you're good to go to start. And then this video is basically going through changing some project settings, adding some stuff to the default engine.ini, and that thing, that kind of stuff. So I just want to point that out because otherwise it would just be a very abrupt, start to this video. But anyways, yeah, yeah, that'll be all. So let's just continue on with the video. I am re-recording this, so I'm basically scrapping 177 videos, I think it was. A lot of hours of record time to remake this series. But yeah, so with all that said, let's go ahead and begin. So to start, this project does make use of the SKG shooter framework. So once you've pulled the level branch here, go ahead and take the project or take the SKG shooter framework, make a plugins folder, and just throw it in there. I recommend putting it inside of here rather than leaving it inside of your engine, but that's kind of a up to you. So it's really just up to your choice. Because Epic auto updates plugins, I'm assuming they still do. I prefer to leave everything plugin related inside of here from the marketplace just because I don't want something to break without my knowledge. So once that's done, we want to go ahead and enable some plugins. Because this is a gas-based tutorial or series, we want to enable the gameplay abilities system. So search for gameplay abilities and just make sure that it is in fact enabled. Next up, for the UI, we're going to be making heavy use of the view model. So search for view model and find UMG view model and enable that as well. Lastly, go to project settings, search for near clip plane, and we want to set this value to 1. Now, it is possible that this value is going to end up changing. It just depends on what we need to actually set it to. So basically, from my understanding, we want this to be at the highest value that is acceptable. Now, what the near clip plane is basically how close we can get to something without it clipping. So you can see here, I'm starting to clip into the wall, and this is kind of the near clip plane. So even though I'm not quite in, my camera's not in the wall, I'm so close to it that my camera at certain angles is starting to clip. So if you have a firearm and you're aiming and the stock's right in the center bottom of your screen, if it is too close to the camera, your camera might clip into it, at which point we would need to lower this value a little bit. So this will be experimented with, once we actually get to that point, if we notice a problem. So with that said, let's go ahead and close the editor and then go to our config default engine.ini. Go ahead and scroll to the bottom and we want to add these settings here. So system settings, we want the net is push model enabled. We want to set that to 1. Likewise, net push model skip undirtied replication, we want to set that also to 1. And then once we have that, go ahead and relaunch. So the reason we're setting this is because, again, we are using the push model for replication. And this will basically just take it so whoever's, hosting the game, it's going to reduce the CPU load on their machine a little bit. So basically it allows us just to, because we're going to be writing this to use push model replication, this will actually allow it to use that push model replication. Hopefully that made sense. And just to make sure, let's go to our console, type net.is push model enabled, and we can see here it is true. So we know that our settings there are up and good to go. Alrighty, that is all I can think of at this very moment. So in the next, it's probably going to be a few videos because I'm going to try to keep these roughly 10 minutes. At least that's the goal. Start working on the player controller, pawn, player state, and all that kind of stuff, and really just get the, our pawn set up with the ability system on it and set up to go, as well as getting our player controller set up and our inputs set up to where, we can basically walk around and traverse the level. And with that said, likely the first major feature we're going to be working on is probably going to be some form of interaction system. So we're going to get the basics going for that because we have things like the barricade. We have, the barricades to rebuild. We have wall weapons. We have the mystery box. And any Easter eggs we might want to add in the future, we're going to want this to be kind of taken care of using this interaction system. So we'll have to come up with a good, robust way to handle all of this. So with that said, I will see you in the next video.